Hey everyone, it's me, Max Burke. I'm the captain of CE Robots, the team behind Kraken. Just want to give you guys an update on where we're at, what's going on. So you may have heard on our Facebook page or on the BattleBots Facebook page that we are in the Desperado Tournament. So this is a tournament that was for people that are kind of down on their luck so far in the tournament, maybe got a rough start, had some bad luck, some glitches, stuff like that. So our team certainly fit that bill. In the very first match, we had a piece of debris landed in the speed controller, shorted it out. That ended up costing us one side of the drive. We were able to get a couple bites in on the shark, but I forgot that the deviled egg was out there. I was so focused on the shark, and they came and hit us on the good wheel and blew up that gearbox. So we lost both side drives then after that hit. So we're 0-1. We go into our next match. We're against Gemini and Mohawk. We had talked to Mohawk and we were going to team up against Gemini. They had 2 bots. We were 2 bots. It seemed fair. We were both crushers. They were 2 spinners. So, it was going to work out well for everyone, I thought, especially us. We went into the very beginning of that match, and you could see at the very beginning it looked like we were stuck on the wall right after that first hit with Gemini. We weren't actually stuck. The bot was reset the receiver, we think, and there was some glitches with the radio gear there. We were driving into the wall. I couldn't back up, and when I actuated the jaw and started to close, then I had control of the robot. I was able to back up, and I turned to go back towards Gemini. I opened the jaw so I could get them in the jaw, and the robot went full speed again and went into the screws. And so then I couldn't back up again, so I was like, well, I'll actuate the jaw again. I actuate the jaw, but now I'm biting down on the screw. So we got stuck. We were stuck there the rest of the match. Couldn't get unstuck. If I had thought of it at the time, I should have cycled the power to the transmitter. That might have reset the bot and I'd been able to back up off, but I didn't think of that in the moment. So chalk that up to inexperience and just nerves and whatever else. But we're 0-2. And when we started building our BattleBot, we started building Kraken, we were going to BattleBot, so we had expectations. And those expectations weren't us being 0-2. And basically out of the tournament. I mean, when the producers started, when we all got there, the producers explained to us that everyone was going to get roughly 4 fights, and a 2-2 team probably wasn't going to make the round of 16. And we knew at that point we were 0-2. So the best case scenario, we were going to get back to 2-2, but we had 2 bad losses. We had 2 losses. They weren't against like Bronco and Minotaur. These are fights that we were capable of winning, and we lost them. So we were really down. I mean, that was the lowest of the low. And then the producers came out and they threw us a bone. They said, hey, we're going to do this special tournament called the Desperado Tournament. All of these teams, there's a whole bunch of teams in here. Us, Lockjaw, Lucky, Gigabyte. There's a whole bunch of teams that, for whatever reason, just weren't having the tournament that they had hoped to have. And the way the Desperado was set up was there's 3 fights. If you win your 3 fights, you're going to win this tournament. There's 8 bots. If you win these 3 fights, you get an automatic bid into the round of 16. And the cool thing was, they didn't guarantee you were going to be the number 16 seed. They were going to take into account what you had done, your body of work up to that point, plus how you performed in these 3 matches, and they would seed you accordingly. So we said, heck yeah, we're in. Our robot's basically still intact. It's still fully functional. We have actually had 2 chassis. At this point we'd used chassis 1 for the first 2 matches, but we had a second chassis. We could switch to it, and the piece parts are interchangeable, so the head and jaw from each chassis could be swapped if we damaged one. So said, hey, we're well positioned to do this. So talked to the producers. We said, yeah, we're in. And they said, okay, great. We're going to talk to the other teams and find out who else is in. So then it was a waiting game, and it was a couple days. And so during those couple days, we started working on the second chassis. because we hadn't really tested it yet. We needed to make sure it was up and running, the motors were in good. So we take it in for a test, and we're just doing a wheels up test in the outside the pits area there next to the test box. And one of the drive motors is real glitchy. It just doesn't turn right, and it's, even when it was working, it was only going about half of the speed of the other motor, and it was like, oh geez. You know, these were used motors because there was a motor shortage. I'm sure you heard about it from some of the other builders at the start of the tournament. There was no motors anywhere. You couldn't get them anymore. So we're short these motors. We're using used backups that were 10 years old. We bought them from Ultimo Destructo. And this one just wasn't working real well. So fortunately NPC Robotics was on hand, and they came by and were talking to us about our robot, and we're like, yeah, we got this one glitchy motor. And they're like, oh, I'll overnight you one. So they overnighted a motor for us, hooked us up with it. We swapped out that motor, worked until they kicked us out, which was midnight. They shut the pits down at midnight every night. So we worked until midnight. The pits opened the following morning at 7 a.m. We were back at 7 a.m. And that includes a half-hour drive each way. So everyone was exhausted, but we worked through the night to get that bot put back together. And the producers, that same night, I should clarify that same night that we were frantically trying to scramble to get this other motor put in, the producers came out and told us that they were going to announce their Desperado, and they were supposed to announce it, I think at like 11 o'clock. But the last session actually ended up going till 11 o'clock. So they said, well, we want to give the teams that were in this final session a chance to enter into the Desperado if they feel they need to. And one of the teams that was in the last session was Lockjaw. And you know how their fight against Bronco went. So they were now 1 and 2. And they were thinking the same thing we are. Yeah, they lost to Endgame into Bronco, so maybe stronger opponents to lose to than certainly we did. But they weren't feeling very confident either. And we'd had a chance to talk to them. We had kind of made friends earlier in the tournament. And they said if they lost against Bronco, they were planning to enter the Desperado. So at this point, we're nervous. There's who knows how many teams entered, and there's 8 slots available. We were thinking maybe there's 10 teams. We're starting to count them off. Well, this team probably entered, that team probably entered. We didn't know. We had talked to some of the teams. Some of the teams were pretty open about it. We certainly were. Yeah, we're entering. And we weren't sure who all else was entering, because it was still very early in the tournament. A lot of teams were, 1 and 1 or 0 and 1. The long tournament ahead of them. But who knows what the rest of the tournament holds. So we're waiting for the producers to come out and make the announcement. And they go out. They walk up front. It's like 11:30 at night, and they said, we're not quite ready to make a decision yet. We'll be back in 15 minutes. We're trying to decide on the last couple positions, and the seating, so give us another 15 minutes. So they went back again, and we're all like, oh geez, it's getting later and later. And they came back at around 11:45, I think, 11:50, and made the announcement, and the number 8 seed went to us. And we were so excited, because at this point, up until now, we felt we were out. There was no chance for us to get into the tournament. And this was finally like a ray of hope that we could actually somehow sneak into the round of 16. And so I cheered, my wife cheered, we're hugging and high-fiving with the other members of the team and everything, and we're super excited. And we missed like the next 3 announcements of who was even in the tournament. I have no clue, who was what order and who was fighting who. I knew we were 8, and we were therefore going to fight number 1. So we kind of composed ourselves, and we're getting ready. They're getting down. They're like, number 2 was Gigabyte, which was a huge shock. They were 0-1 at this point. We thought they maybe would wait, but they were feeling pretty confident and felt that this was a pretty good way for them to get into the tournament, maybe fighting bots that were underperforming. I'm not sure exactly what the logic was behind it. Maybe they just wanted to fight a lot of fights, which is certainly our opinion as well. But They entered the tournament and they were the number 2 seed, so that was kind of a relief we weren't fighting them, but kind of made it a little bit scarier about who the number 1 seed was. And then they announced Lockjaw and Donald Hudson. And for those of you like me who are big BattleBots fans and have been BattleBots fans for a long time, you know the name Donald Hudson. He is I believe 6-time champion of BattleBots. He knows what he's doing. His machines are quality. They're beautiful, they're elegant, they're reliable, and they just work. No matter what, they just work, and he's a fantastic driver. So we're very excited to get in. We're very excited to fight Lockjaw. A little bit nervous about fighting Lockjaw. You know, I have a lot of respect for Donald. I'm not necessarily afraid of him. I didn't think we would get destroyed by him. And we were pretty confident going in. You know, Donald had struggled in his last 2 matches as well. And we were thinking we had a real shot. Kraken is well designed for fighting 4-wheel drive drumbots or vertical spinners. The narrow front lower jaw is very low wedge. It's designed to scoop underneath 4-wheel drive spinners like that. It just slips right underneath of them. And then with the jaw, we felt once we got a hold of something, we can really, you know, no one was getting away. The shark wasn't getting away. The screws didn't get away. If we got a hold of something, we could take advantage of them and use the arena hazards to really win the match. So we're getting ready to fight Donald. We put her all together, tested it, feeling pretty confident. And so now you gotta wait till Friday night, find out how we did. Thanks. Go Kraken.